I seriously doubt that I am an ideal husband. I have a stressful job, and I know that sometimes I come home a little irritated. I may not be the best provider either. I'm certainly not a millionaire, but we're doing okay. We have a nice house, 2 luxury cars, my wife has a closet full of beautiful clothes, and our 8-year-old daughter, Jennifer, has a lot of expensive toys. I think when it comes down to it, I'm just a simple, hard-working guy who loves his wife and family. Linda and I have been married for almost 12 years, and have been heaven on earth for most of those years. I say most of the time because over the last couple of months, something has clearly been off between Linda and me. It's hard to say for sure, but she behaved strangely, somehow distantly. On several occasions, for no apparent reason, she found cause for reproach for something I did or said. It's not her style at all. I tried to discuss this. I asked if she was angry with me for some unknown reason, but like all women, she simply said that nothing happened except that she was a little tired, or she had a bad day. At first, I thought of giving her some time to figure out what was bothering her, but over time, this distant attitude became old and annoying as hell. Her attitude aside, as any married couple probably knows, you can't have a problematic relationship with your spouse without affecting the bedroom. I have always tried to keep our love life spontaneous and exciting. I've always been a romantic at heart, so sometimes I'd start foreplay by bringing home a dozen roses after work. In the past, such gestures never failed to make love later that night. But lately, my love affairs have been met with nothing more than a thank you and a kiss on the cheek. Instead of taking my attention for what they were, it was almost as if she saw them as some pathetic attempt to make amends for something I had done wrong. It had been a few weeks since Linda had started blocking sex, and my attempts were met with either her not being in the mood or having a constant headache. On those rare occasions when she gave in to my persuasion, she lay there while I did all the work. Over time, I realized that I began to remove myself from the situation. I would come home, play with my daughter, and try to pay as little attention to my wife as possible. Of course, this only made the situation worse. Whenever I had a minute at work, I started going over everything in my head. I tried to remember when and how it all started. I tried to remember if I had done anything that might have provoked a change in Linda's attitude, but nothing came to mind. I ran through dozens of different scenarios in my head, trying to come up with some kind of cause and effect analysis. The more I thought, the more often one incredible reason for Linda's behavior appeared in my thoughts. I wondered if this was possible. Could my wife be cheating on me? I told myself that no, she would never do such a thing. But every time I tried to put 2 and 2 together, it turned out to be 3. Me, Linda, and a lover. I tried to tell myself that it was simply impossible, but you know what they say about curiosity. I started reading about what signs to look for, differences in behavioral patterns, clothing, schedules, that kind of thing. Truth be told, I didn't really notice Linda wearing any revealing clothes or dressing sexier, but then I only saw her when I came home after work. Who knows how she dressed during the day? I also had no idea what kind of schedule she had. She was always running somewhere. Why? Again, who knows? When it came to changing her relationship, however, some of the symptoms sounded awfully familiar. I thought about hiring a private investigator, but I had no real evidence. All I had were suspicions and definitely nothing that would justify the cost of surveillance, so I began investigating on my own. I did little things like calling home in the middle of the day. Sometimes she was at home, sometimes she wasn't. I then took out an old outdoor security camera and discreetly installed it under the eaves of the garage. I connected it to a recording device that I hid on the back shelf behind the paint cans. I wanted to see if any strange cars were coming to the house, but after 2 weeks of observation, there were none. I saw my wife leave the house several times, then tell me that she had been at home all day, but she wasn't gone long enough for anything to happen. Well, unless her lover was a one-minute wonder. Perhaps it was just a minor errand that she considered too unimportant to mention. This was definitely not evidence of an illicit affair. Time passed, and although I still had absolutely no evidence of any pranks, my suspicions deepened. Her mood was getting worse, and we hadn't made love for a couple of weeks. I started to get angry. Our 12th anniversary was approaching, and I saw this as an opportunity. I wanted to go out and have fun. It had been a long time since Linda and I had gone out for an evening of dinner and dancing. Maybe, just maybe, this will bring the spark back into our marriage. I was definitely willing to give it a try. We agreed that Jennifer would spend the night at my parents' house so we could really enjoy ourselves without any time restrictions. I made a reservation at Plato's Place, one of Linda's favorite restaurants. She took my arm as the head waiter showed us to our table, and I was hoping that some of that old magic would return, but for some reason, she seemed a little tense. We ordered a bottle of wine for dinner, and I saw Linda begin to relax. She began to behave as before. Our conversation was light and playful. After dinner, I saw that my beautiful wife was getting impatient to go dancing. I wanted to go to a new dance club that opened a couple of months ago, but Linda talked me into going to the same place we always went to. It was a nice place with intimate lighting and a nice, cozy dance floor. They catered to a slightly older crowd and played music that you could actually dance to, so she didn't have to do much convincing. Well, I'm not that bad of a dancer, if I do say so myself. In fact, this is one of the things that brought Linda and I together. We both love to dance. We found a nice, private table for two, ordered a couple of drinks, took a sip each, then went to show the others that there's more to dancing than just the step. It was like old times. We were both having a great time. We were tired after almost an hour of continuous dancing, so we returned to our table to rest. I sank into a chair. Linda took a sip from her glass of wine, then excused herself and went to the women's room. I watched my beautiful companion as she gracefully swayed her hips with every step. When I finally took my mind off the perfection of my wife's ass, I realized that I wasn't the only one who had my attention on her. Sitting alone at a corner table on the other side of the dance floor, there was a very attractive guy who watched Linda's every move. For a second, I thought she made a peephole with him and wondered if they knew each other. When she disappeared into the toilet, I thought the guy looked straight at me with a smug look. But at this distance, it was hard to tell. The place we were at was strictly a dance club, and I wondered why the guy came alone, but then thought that, like Linda, his date was probably in the girls' room. I kept it in view from the corner of my eye as I waited for my beautiful wife to return. Again, as she passed him on the way back, I was sure I saw them both smile and glance at each other. Suddenly, all my suspicions returned. "Honey, could you bring me another glass of wine? This one's gone bad," Linda asked me as she sat down. I was already feeling uncomfortable and especially didn't want Linda sitting alone while I waited at the bar for some busy bartender to leisurely fill my order. I looked around and caught the eye of one of the barmaids. I thought Linda looked disappointed when the young lady approached the table to take our drink order. I just knew the evening was going to go wrong. I felt it in my bones. I looked over my shoulder and saw that guy was still sitting there, alone. He was definitely alone. "Who's that guy in the corner?" I asked. I caught her off guard, and for a moment there seemed to be panic in Linda's eyes. However, it didn't take her long to come to her senses. "Which guy?" The hesitant tone in her voice told me I was on the right track. "That guy over there, the one you made eyes at on the way to the toilet," I insisted. "Darling, I don't know what you're talking about," she countered innocently. "I didn't make eye contact with anyone." As soon as our drinks arrived, I saw Linda's eyes quickly dart over my shoulder. I looked back and saw Mr. Loner approaching our table. He didn't even glance in my direction. He walked around where I was sitting and looked straight at Linda. "May I have this dance, please?" he asked her. I immediately perked up. "No, thank you," I snapped. This caused a reaction. "I spoke to the lady?" He grinned dismissively. "Yes, well, the lady is my wife, and I say who she can and cannot dance with." Then Linda intervened. "Harry," she said, "you're a brute." "Rude. Do you know this guy?" I could see how the question took her by surprise. "He's the one I was talking about. I don't know what your relationship is, but he just walked up and asked my wife to dance without even bothering to look my way. It's not only rude, it's extremely disrespectful." "Hey, Mac." Mr. Loner started to put in his 2 cents, but I cut him off. "Don't interfere. I'm talking to my wife, and I definitely don't need your comment." I turned back to Linda and continued. If he had asked if I minded you and him dancing together, I might have agreed, but now, not for anything in the world. Harry, she said now with rage in her voice, you are being foolish. There is nothing between this gentleman and me, and yes, you and I are married, but you don't own me. I am not your slave, and if I want to dance with someone, I will. I couldn't believe my wife was talking to me like that. She never disrespected me like that. I was seething with anger, and any hopes of having a nice romantic evening with my wife were gone. However, I tried to control my anger. As I tried to calm down, she continued. Honey, I just want to have fun, she said much softer now. Linda, it's our anniversary. I want to have fun too. But with you, and sitting here watching you dance with someone else is not my plan for fun, especially when I asked you not to dance with him. You're right. I don't own you, and I can't stop you from dancing with him, but if you do, you better find someone to take you home, because I won't be here. After 12 years together, I could read Linda like an open book. When she looked at my face, her expression was full of anger. I was surprised that she couldn't see the same thing in me. Well, it's rude to make this gentleman stand here while we argue, so I'm going to dance with him and we'll talk about it when I get back, she said sharply. The idiot had a smug grin on his face as he held out his hand for her to take. Linda put her hand in his as she stood up and they hit the dance floor together. I'm sure they didn't even see me leave because I was out the door before they even started dancing. I was already 8 blocks away when my cell phone rang. Where the hell are you? Linda asked in a very humble voice. I'm on my way home to pack my things. Why do you ask? There was a pause. What are you talking about? Packing your things? Where are you going? I don't know yet. All I know is that I'm leaving you, I said. I've had enough. You can't be serious, Harry. It was just a dance. One pathetic dance. Are you going to throw away 12 years of marriage over a dance? It's not about the dance, Linda. Why would you stay married to a man you don't love or respect? I'll be honest. I didn't catch you, but I'm pretty sure you're cheating on me. I'm suspicious of this asshole. Who were you just dancing with? I saw the way you looked at each other when you went to the toilet. When he came to our table, he treated me with the same respect that a guy shows to the husband of the woman he's having fun with. None. Harry, she said in a softer voice, I really love you and respect you. I told you there's nothing between that guy and me. I would never cheat on you. Why would you even think that? You have to be kidding. We haven't made love in over 2 weeks. When we do, you don't even participate. You just lie there. You've been irritable for the last 2 months. And don't tell me you respect me because that's not true. You proved it tonight. If you're not having an affair, you're damn good at faking it. There was only silence from the other end of the line. Finally, I'm sorry, Harry. I didn't realize. I'm sorry for the way I acted. I'm sorry for tonight. I'm sorry that I gave you reason to think I was having an affair. She paused briefly. I probably really looked at that guy on the way to the toilet. He was a handsome man. I noticed him when we were dancing, and we probably saw each other at the same moment, but I'm not having an affair with him. Please, darling, please just come back and get me. We'll talk about it. No, like I said, I've had enough. I told you if you dance with that guy, you'll have to find another way home, and I meant it. I'm pulling into our driveway now. I'll be out of here by then. How will you come back? If you are having an affair, maybe you should just go home with your lover and forget about me. Honey, please believe me. I'm not having an affair. Please watch. I'll take a taxi, but please just stay there until I get back. Now I recognize the desperation in her voice, quite different from earlier. We need to talk about this. Please, I'll be home soon, she pleaded before hanging up. I pulled into our driveway, went upstairs, and packed my bag. I left the house in 12 minutes. I wondered if she was really going to take a taxi home or if the jerk guy would drive her, so I drove down the street, turned off my headlights, and waited to see. About 15 minutes later, a yellow taxi pulled up to the house. Linda got out and ran into the house. I saw what I wanted to see and went to the motel. Almost immediately, my phone started ringing again. I turned it off. I still had no proof of infidelity, but I had very strong suspicions. I was pretty sure Linda and the guy she was dancing with knew each other. I thought now might be the time for a private investigator. If I had not been home, perhaps she would have gone to her lover for comfort. The next day I looked through the yellow pages and found the detective with the best ad. I went to his office and made an advance payment. After that, I went to work. Tracy, my secretary, told me to call my wife immediately. She said Linda had already called 20 times and something was definitely wrong. I explained that Linda and I were having problems and that I had no intention of answering her calls. I asked Tracy to explain this to her the next time she called. I also called the receptionist at the main entrance and told her not to let Linda into the office if she came. I wanted to give the detective time to see what he could find. Now it was just waiting. A little later that day, Andrea, our neighbor, called me. I knew it would be about Linda, but I didn't want to seem rude, so I answered the phone. "Harry," she began, "Linda told me what happened that night. She's frantically trying to apologize, but she says you're not talking to her." "It's true," I said. "I have nothing to talk to her about." I heard a small sigh from the other end of the line. "She also said that you suspect her of cheating. Do you really believe that?" "I'm afraid so," I replied. "She was acting strange over 2 months ago. That night only confirmed my suspicions." "Confirmed?" "She said all she did was dance with some guy." "No, that's not entirely true. I saw the way they looked at each other before he even came to the table. He was extremely rude to me, and Linda took his side and followed his lead. I warned her of the consequences if she danced with that idiot, but she didn't care. I'm pretty sure they're lovers." "Harry, I'm sure you're wrong. I've lived next door to you for years. I believe I would have noticed if Linda was cheating on you, and I've never seen any evidence of it. I've never seen any strange cars in your place. I've never didn't see any strange men. Please, she knows it was wrong to dance with that guy. She said she was angry because you said she couldn't dance with him, but she thought about what you said, and she realized that you were right. Believe me, Harry, I know Linda, and she is not cheating on you. She loves you. You know that as well as I do." "I'm not so sure anymore, Andrea. She certainly didn't act out of love that night, that's for sure." "Please, Harry, please, just talk to her. You'll never solve anything if you don't talk." I knew she was right, of course, but I wanted to give the detective some time. "Andrea, do me a favor. Tell her I'll call her in a couple of weeks. I still need to think about it." Again, I heard a sigh. "Okay, Harry, I'll tell her. But please call her later. Promise me. Please." "I promise," I told her. We said goodbye, and it got me thinking again. Andrea and her husband Don were good friends of our family. I couldn't imagine Andrea lying to me. If Linda cheated on me, she did it very skillfully. For the next 2 weeks, I was on pins and needles. I contacted the detective a couple of times, but all he said was that he didn't have any news yet. Finally, he called and asked me to come to his office. My stomach knotted as I sat down. He pushed a folder with cuffs across the table towards me. My hand shook when I took it. "You can skip the boring stuff," he said, as I opened the first page of his report. "Just go to the bottom of page 5. I nervously flipped through the pages until I found what I was looking for. Evidence? After a thorough investigation, this agency found no evidence to support the client's suspicions of infidelity on the part of his spouse. I think my jaw hit the floor. I wasn't sure how to react. Of course, it was good news, great news, but I was so sure she was cheating. "Are you sure?" I asked, looking at the man across the table again. "Mr. Fremont, I've sent someone to watch your wife's every move for the last 2 weeks. We've been watching the house, monitoring her calls, and following her every time she goes out. We've checked her phone records and credit card statements. We've got nothing found. Not a single piece of evidence that would suggest she was having an affair." I was so relieved that I could barely restrain myself from bursting into tears right in his office. "Go home, Mr. Fremont. Go back to your wife and child. In my profession, I don't often see happy endings." I thanked him and returned to my motel room. I still needed a little time to sort everything out. I spent the weekend going over everything in my head. Monday morning, I called Linda. Her voice was weak and shaky when she answered. "Hello? It's me," I said. "Are you okay? You don't sound good." There was a short pause. "Harry, oh Harry, I'm so sorry, so sorry. I just don't know what to do if you don't come back to us. I tried to stay strong for Jennifer, but all I did was cry. I'm so sorry. I think I just started taking you for granted. You were absolutely right. I should have told that guy I was with my husband and told him to go to hell." I heard her start crying again. "I showed you no respect, and I don't know why, because I really respect you. I love you, and I respect you very much. I swear, Harry, if you give me another chance, I will never make that mistake again. Never." Linda's request actually surprised me. Her attitude was much different than at the dance club. When I didn't answer right away, she jumped to the wrong conclusion. "You're not coming back, are you?" "Yes, I'll be back," I said, then quickly added, "but only for a trial period. I want my wife Linda back. And I don't mean the woman I've been living with for the last 2 months. I mean the woman. The woman I fell in love with. The woman I married. She's here, Harry. Honestly, she's here, waiting for the man she loves," she replied, sounding very sincere. "We'll see. After everything I've been through, bad relationships, lack of passion in the bedroom, disrespect, I'm still not convinced, Linda. Not yet. I need to stop by the modal after work and pick up my things, but I'll be home this evening," I told her. There was a pause on her part before she spoke. "I love you, Harry. I'm so sorry for treating you the way I did. I don't want to lose you." I can't say that I have no doubts. I was still angry, and despite all the evidence to the contrary, I just couldn't shake the feeling that Linda knew that guy in the dance hall. After work, I picked up my things and went home. Jennifer came running and almost knocked me down at the door. She asked where I had been. I explained that I had been on a business trip for some time. Obviously, she knew nothing about our problems. Linda was there too. She hugged me and covered me with kisses. I responded to her kisses passionately. After all, I couldn't deny that I loved my wife. That was 2 years ago, and married life was wonderful again. Linda became the woman I married again, both inside and outside the bedroom. A couple of months ago, she surprised me for my birthday. In the past, we had always celebrated Linda's birthday as a special day, but we only started celebrating mine after I returned home. Yesterday was our 14th wedding anniversary. This time, Linda planned the entire evening. When I got home from work, she surprised me with tickets to a restaurant theater to see Man of La Mancha, one of my favorite plays. After that, we went to the embankment and walked along the beach. The moon was shining and warm breezes were blowing from the lake. "Thank you for a wonderful anniversary," I said, hugging her and holding her close. What is this?" she asked flirtatiously, feeling the tension in my pants. "I think we should go home and do this." I agreed, and within half an hour we were in our bedroom, tearing each other's clothes off. As it turned out, Linda did not give up the initiative for that night. As soon as she undid the buttons on my shirt, she pulled it halfway down my back, then stopped with my arms in the sleeves. She ran her nails down my chest as she lowered herself to her knees. As of today, I don't really know if she cheated on me or not. I'll probably never know for sure. I know I'm glad I decided to come home. Although according to the calendar, spring had arrived a couple of weeks ago, this was the first day that Linda was able to leave the house without a winter jacket. Finally, another Chicago winter is behind us. When she stepped outside, Linda inhaled the fresh smell of morning dew left after the overnight April rain. She smiled, remembering the warm, protected feeling of lying in her husband's arms, listening to the soft rhythm of the rain. On the way to her car, she noticed beautiful blue wildflowers growing on the lawn. She was amazed at their persistence. No matter how bad the winter was, they persisted in the pursuit of a new beginning, a new life every spring. Linda hummed along to the car radio as she drove to a small cafe to meet Katie, a good friend she hadn't seen in a long time. She had a son, the same age as Linda's daughter, Jennifer. They met many years ago at a school event, became friends, and have been good friends ever since. Katie arrived first and had already taken a small table in the corner by the window. They waved and smiled at each other through the glass as Linda passed by on her way to the front door. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee permeated the busy cafe as Linda made her way to the line of customers, waiting to order their cup of Colombian bliss. Katie stood up when she saw her friend. "Hi." Both girls laughed at the same time as they hugged each other before sitting down. "It's been quite a while," Linda commented. "How are you?" Katie's eyes shone with joy as she answered her friend. The girls chatted, catching up and laughing at the funny things that happened at some of the school events they attended. They asked each other about children and both mentioned how fast they were growing. They had been talking for about an hour when Katie leaned across the table and lowered her voice. "Linda," Kathy said almost in a whisper, "can you keep a secret?" "Yes, of course," Linda replied, gesturing to lock her lips with a key. "What's happened?" "I shouldn't even tell you this, but I need to get it out, or I'm going to explode. Well, kind of dating this guy." Linda's head rose sharply from a sip of coffee to look her friend in the eyes. "What do you mean, like dating this guy? Are you having an affair?" Katie pursed her lips, half smiling. Well, we haven't done anything yet, but I'm thinking about it. I know it's bad, but I feel so alive when I'm with him. His name is Cody. Isn't that a great name? I know I shouldn't, but I really like this guy, and I'm afraid he'll lose interest in me if I don't sleep with him. So, let me ask you this," Linda said. "Are you ready to lose your husband because of him?" "Oh no, of course not. I'm not talking about marrying him, just, having a little affair. The spice of life, as they call it," she said with a smile. "I would make sure Bruce would never find out. He would feel really bad if he found out I was sleeping with someone else." She began to take a sip from her cup. "Besides, Cody is married too. We'll both have to be very careful." For the past 2 years, Linda had been living with a secret that she had never told anyone about and was going to keep it a secret. She looked at her friend and decided to take a chance. "Katie, remember a couple of years ago when Harry and I were having problems? He even left me for a while. Remember?" "Yes, I remember, but I never knew what it was. You never talked about it, and I didn't want to mind my own business. I haven't told anyone, and you must promise never to say a word about what I'm about to say to another living soul." She waited for a clear signal from her friend before continuing. It took a second, but Katie realized what she was waiting for. "Oh, yes, of course, Linda, I promise. If this ever comes out, I'm sure it will ruin my marriage. That's why I haven't told anyone, but, well, you need to hear this, Katie, before you ruin your own marriage." At that moment, the waitress came up with coffee. Linda waited until she had finished pouring them fresh coffee before she began. "I'm probably no different from most other married women. After 12 years of marriage, I felt, bored. Everything had become so routine. It was strange. After all these years, I looked around and thought, where am I going? Nowhere. I'm stuck here. I have no real life for myself." "Exactly," Katie interjected. I know how you feel, Kat. I'm sure most women feel the same way. It doesn't mean you don't love your husband. I love Harry with all my heart, but, well, it suddenly seemed that it wasn't enough, like something was missing. I think I even started to slip into a little depression. Nothing seems fun anymore, not even sex. It really wasn't anyone's fault. Hell, Harry was going out of his way for me, especially in the bedroom. I should have been the happiest person in the world, but nothing helped. Even school activities were a heavy burden. Linda took a sip of her coffee and looked at Katie to make sure her story was getting through to her. She saw that she had her attention, so she continued. "Then I met Terry. Did you have an affair?" Linda confirmed this with a slight nod of her head. "Emotional affair, yes. I came to my senses before it became physical." "Thank God," she said, relieved. "One day I was in that little grocery store on Marshall Avenue and I saw him. God, Kathy, he was amazing. He had these rugged, handsome features with sandy hair and sparkling blue eyes like Robert Redford. He was tall, I guess. Over 6 feet, and even with his clothes on, it was clear that he had a good physique. I knew I was staring, but I couldn't look away, until he looked at me and smiled. We started flirting with each other. This was exciting and seemed so daring. Eventually, I came to my senses. I needed to continue shopping, so I went to the produce section. As I was reaching for the tomatoes, I ran into him. He looked at me with his big blue eyes and that amazing smile and said, "Hi." I knew I was blushing again. He extended his hand for a handshake and introduced himself. He immediately noticed my wedding rings, but that didn't seem to bother him. It was flattering to think that a guy like that could be interested in me. We chatted and joked in the hallways until we both bought what we needed. Then, when we got to the checkout, he gave me his number and said I should call him next week for lunch. Katie now listened carefully to her friend's story. It was so similar to her own situation. I almost threw his business card away when I left the store. I thought, yeah, sure, I'll call you, and we'll have this incredibly hot affair, and then my husband will kill us both. But I didn't throw it away. Didn't throw away what? Asked an intrigued friend. I didn't throw away his card. I stuck it in my purse. Hell, all the way home I was thinking about Terry. Harry came home while I was putting away groceries. I already felt guilty for snapping at him when he tried to help. I think it was some kind of subconscious defense mechanism. Poor Harry just asked if there was something wrong. Oh God, what did you say? I lied, of course. I told him I was just tired from shopping. The truth is, I was secretly over the moon. Anyway, Linda continued, I knew I shouldn't call him. It was wrong. But I also knew that because of the way I was feeling, I was very vulnerable. I kept telling myself, no, no, no. But I just couldn't help myself. I found one of the last machines in the city and dialed the number on the card he gave me. We agreed to meet for lunch the next day. Eagerly, Katie waited for her friend to take another sip of coffee before continuing. Kat, on the way to the restaurant, my emotions were on a swing. I was terrified and delighted at the same time, not to mention the fact that I was extremely excited. At one point, while we were talking, Terry reached out his hand through the table and took my hand. It was almost like going on a first date as a child. I'll tell you, I wanted to be in bed with this guy so bad, but my conscience, or maybe it was just fear, in any way, I just couldn't do it. But that didn't stop Terry. He has already begun his seduction. He started talking about how Harry didn't appreciate how wonderful his wife was. Stupid me, I ate it all. I started to get angry at my own husband. Terry soon convinced me that Harry was taking me for granted. God, Linda, that sounds like something I'm going through right now, Katie said. That's why I'm telling you all this, Katie. I want you to understand what you're getting yourself into. This guy you're dating, has he started talking about Bruce yet? No, absolutely not. Katie stopped and thought about her answer. Well, I mean, not really. He asked questions, like, does your husband know how lucky he is? And so on. Yeah, and of course you're starting to wonder the same thing, right? Well, Katie, this happens without even realizing it. When Harry left, he told me that I had been harsh with him for over 2 months. I didn't even realize I was doing it. I did the same in the bedroom. I just couldn't force myself to be passionate with a man who I thought was taking me for granted. She saw her friend's eyes light up as she continued her story. Think about it, Katie. What kind of man has an affair with a married woman? Can you imagine Bruce would do such a thing? Bruce? No, of course not. He would never do anything like that. Yeah, so why risk your marriage for someone who would do it? Linda asked. While Katie reflected on what she had said, Linda continued her story. Anyway, we met for lunch again the following week, and it was getting harder and harder for me to stay true to Harry. The third time we met for lunch, he almost convinced me to go to his apartment. I could see he was starting to get angry at all my excuses, and I knew that if we met for lunch again, we'd end up in bed together. As we were leaving the restaurant after this third date, I mentioned that I needed to buy a new dress because Harry was going to take me to our anniversary. I told him that we would probably go to the same club we usually go to. Harry talked a lot about all the fun we had there and how we danced all night. Terry jumped on it immediately. He said he would be there to dance with me. I told him that it would be better if he didn't do this because it was our anniversary, and my husband might get angry if I danced with someone else. But Terry was persistent and said it would make Harry appreciate me more. He said he would show Harry that other men wanted me, and maybe that would make Harry appreciate me more. "Oh my God, Linda, he really came, didn't he?" Katie asked. Linda took a sip of coffee. "He came. I saw him as soon as we walked in. I didn't dare say anything to him, of course. Until that moment, Harry and I were having a great time, until Terry came over and asked me to dance." "Oh my God," Katie whispered. "Yes. And to make matters worse, he completely ignored Harry. In fact, he was extremely rude to me. Harry naturally was furious and gave me an ultimatum, saying that I could not dance with him. Well, you know how I might be stupid. I got angry and said I would dance with him anyway. Harry said he wouldn't be there when we got back from the dance floor, but people always say that. Who believes that?" Tears began to form in Linda's eyes as she continued. "When we started dancing, I told Terry that he shouldn't have done that in front of Harry. I asked him why he was so rude. He said he wanted to put Harry in his place. That made me angry. Of course, Terry held me very close on the dance floor, but by then I was more worried that Harry was watching us and would be even more furious. In fact, I was so nervous that I didn't even notice when the first dance ended and we started the second. When the dance was over, I told Terry that I didn't want to dance anymore. I said I was going to spend the rest of the evening with my husband. I headed back to the table and saw Terry following me. I asked what the hell he was doing. He said he wanted to apologize to Harry. When we returned to the table, Harry was not there. Terry sat in his place and said that he would wait for his return. I don't really think he meant to apologize. I think he wanted to piss Harry off even more. "Why?" Katie asked. "Why did he want to do this?" I think he was counting, since he had so far had no success in getting me into bed, that he would create problems between Harry and me. I'm sure he was hoping that I would come running to him to cry about him. Shoulder. I imagine he thought he would comfort me in bed for the rest of the night. I thought Harry was in the men's room. I told Terry to go back to his seat, but he continued to hesitate. When the waitress came over, he ordered our drinks. That's when she asked if we wanted to start a new account. I asked what was wrong with the first bill. She said Harry paid for it before he left. Katie, I swear I saw my whole life before my eyes, at least my married life. I couldn't believe he just left me there. Linda's face became increasingly tense as she continued her story, and this resonated with Katie. Her own emotions began to emerge. One tear escaped Katie's eye and rolled down her cheek. "You shouldn't have told me all this, Linda. Look at you. You're crying. Let's stop here." No, I want to tell you the whole story, Katie. You need to know the whole story. It's important. So that's where I left off. Oh yeah, I know. I immediately took out my phone and called Harry. I asked him to come back and pick me up. Then he told me he thought I was having an affair, and he even suggested it was with Terry. He said he was going to pack up and leave and didn't know if he would come back. Linda took a napkin. "God, Katie, it hit me like a bolt from the blue," she said, wiping the moisture from her eyes. "It was like someone turned on a light, and everything suddenly became clear. It wasn't Harry who was taking me for granted. Hell, he was doing everything he could to help. It was me taking him for granted. Him and Jennifer as well. The life we built together. I realized I was risking my entire marriage for some jerk. I asked Harry again to come back and pick me up so we could talk, but he refused, so I called a taxi." "And Terry, what was he doing all this time?" Katie asked. "Oh, he didn't give up yet, not right away. He said Harry didn't deserve me and that I should leave with him. I told that idiot to get the hell out," she said with a smile. "Even after that, he tried again. He followed me outside to wait for the taxi. When it pulled up, he grabbed me and tried to kiss me. I kneed him right in the balls. As he hunched over in pain, I told him that if he ever tries to contact me again, I will sue him for sexual harassment." Katie grabbed her friend's hand as Linda wiped away another tear. "Anyway, by the time I got home, Harry had already left. I tried to call him, but he turned off his mobile. Katie, I was so scared. All I saw was my marriage crumbling before my eyes. My whole family, everything we worked for, was going up in smoke. Believe me, Katie, I've never been so scared in my life. The next day I tried to call him at work, but he refused to talk to me. His secretary told me that he even ordered the receptionist not to let me into the office if I came. I became desperate, so I went to talk to Andrea, our neighbor. Harry liked her and her husband, so I thought maybe he'd talk to her. Well, he talked, but all he said was that he needed time to think, and he would call me in a couple of weeks. I knew putting pressure would only make things worse, so I decided to give him space. These were the worst 2 weeks of my life. When Jennifer was around, I tried to stay strong and just tell her that Dad was on a business trip, but as soon as she left, I just cried. I thought I had lost everything. Harry was so angry that I really didn't think he would come back to me, especially if he thought I was cheating on him. Linda was crying now, remembering the pain she had gone through. "Sorry," she said to Katie. It's hard to remember even now." She took a deep breath and then continued. "As I was saying, Harry finally called and said he was coming home. Katie, I was so close to losing everything. Believe me, it made me realize what I have and how incredibly lucky I am. After all, Katie, love must conquer passion. I love Harry and he loves me. In my opinion, there's not a single man in this world who would be worth the risk of losing it." "Wow," Katie said thoughtfully. "You're right. I don't know what I would do if my husband left me. Have you ever told Harry the truth?" "Are you kidding me? With how close I came to losing him, I wasn't going to risk it again. Katie, I live in constant fear that one day he'll find out. But since the day he came home, I've tried to be the best wife I could ever have. I never took him or our marriage for granted again. Every day I thank my lucky stars for what I have and show Harry how much I appreciate him with all the passion of my soul. All I can hope for is that it will be enough if he ever finds out." Katie squeezed Linda's hand comfortingly. "I'm so glad you told me your story. You stopped me from making a big mistake, Linda. Thank you." The two friends talked some more and then agreed to meet again before saying goodbye. Linda felt good knowing that she had just saved her friend from making a terrible mistake. She parked at her house in time to greet her daughter with a kiss and an after-school snack. "Damn," she thought to herself, "Jennifer is growing up so fast. She'll be 10 years old soon. How does time fly?" When Harry returned home from work, Linda greeted her man with hugs and kisses. She had never spoken about that painful part of their marriage until that day. Talking to Katie only reminded her again what a wonderful life she and Harry had built together. Later that night, as Harry lay blissfully asleep next to her, Linda rolled onto her side and propped herself up on her elbow. She looked at the wrinkles on his face that had appeared with age and remembered when each one appeared. With an almost imperceptible touch, she ran her fingers along the outline of some of the later ones. Her heart beat with admiration and love for the flesh and bone man lying next to her. Quietly, Linda leaned down and touched her lips to his, but when their lips touched, Harry's lips turned into a big smile. He hugged his beautiful wife and kissed her passionately. "I thought you were sleeping," Linda whispered. "Actually, I was laying around thinking about what to get Jennifer for her birthday," he replied. "You know what she really needs?" "What?" "A younger brother or sister." This was not a complete surprise. They discussed the possibility of having another child, but never came to a final decision. Linda smiled. It looks like her husband has just resolved the issue. "Well, considering Jennifer's birthday is only 2 months away, honey, isn't it about time we get started?" Harry's smile widened. "You are reading my mind." 2 months later, Jennifer celebrated her 10th birthday with a big party in her backyard. Mom and Dad invited all her friends, and there was enough ice cream and cake for everyone. After the party, Linda and Harry gave their daughter another surprise, giving her another expensive toy, and news about the imminent arrival of a little brother.